Dr. Emily Richardson stood before the Galactic Council, her heartbeat steady despite the 5,000 alien representatives watching from their crystalline platforms. The massive chamber, designed to humble lesser species, only made her smile. Humanity had survived worse than architectural intimidation. Distinguished members of the council, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustic enhancement field. Earth extends its gratitude for acceptance into the galactic community. The standard translator rendered her words into the 57 official languages of the council, creating a symphony of alien sounds. Behind her, Ambassador Thomas Jackson noticed how the archivist's tentacles writhed in their observation dome. The ancient species, resembling a cross between octopi and living supercomputers, were already analyzing every micro-expression, every subtle shift in her posture. Good, let them analyze. Emily continued through the traditional parts of the acceptance speech: technological exchange promises, trade agreements, cultural preservation guarantees. The assembled aliens relaxed, their varying biosigns indicating pleasure at another smooth integration. Then she paused, and Jackson saw the archivist's tentacles freeze. "There is one final addendum," Emily said, her tone shifting subtly. "A warning, freely given in the spirit of preventing future misunderstandings." The chamber's translator matrix stuttered. Warnings weren't part of acceptance speeches. In 10,000 years of council history, no species had ever included a warning in their integration address. Humanity comes in peace. We genuinely desire friendship, trade, and mutual growth with all species. Emily's smile remained diplomatic, but her eyes hardened just enough for the archivists to notice. "However, we feel ethically obligated to inform the council. Don't trigger our rage." The translation matrix crashed. In the ensuing silence, Emily repeated the warning in the 15 most common alien languages, her pronunciation perfect, her tone maintaining that same unsettling balance between diplomatic and dangerous. A Nexar representative, their crystalline body pulsing with indignation, rose from their platform. "This is unprecedented. Is this a threat from a primitive species that hasn't even mastered antimatter containment?" "Not a threat," Emily corrected, her smile never wavering. "A warning. Like warning someone that a particular plant is poisonous or that a star is about to go supernova. Simply information that might prevent future tragedies." Ambassador Jackson stepped forward, his weathered face projecting grandfatherly concern. Perhaps an example would help. He gestured to his personal eye to display historical footage. "This is Earth, 1945, the only time nuclear weapons were used in war." The footage played, showing the devastation of Hiroshima. Before the council could recover, Jackson transitioned to Vietnam, to the Gulf Wars, to the corporate conflicts of the 2030s. Humanity, he explained gently, invented therapy and trauma counseling before we invented faster-than-light travel. We created meditation techniques and anger management alongside weapons of mass destruction. We recognize our capacity for rage, and we work very, very hard to channel it constructively. Emily took over again. "We've learned to be peaceful, but peace is a choice we make daily. We hope to never demonstrate why this warning was necessary." The archivist's observation dome pulsed with rapid-fire bioluminescent patterns. Their prediction matrices were processing something that clearly disturbed them. As Emily and Jackson left the chamber, a young Nexar analyst rushed up to them, crystal surface flickering with excitement. "Your species' brain scans. The paradoxes are fascinating. Such high empathy combined with enhanced threat processing, advanced emotional control centers alongside primal rage responses. How do you function?" Emily's smile finally reached her eyes. Very carefully. In the observation dome, the archivists reached a consensus. For the first time in their 100,000-year history, they tagged a species with a new classification. Approach with utmost diplomatic caution. Species displays behavioral patterns consistent with evolved planetary apex predators, but with unprecedented emotional and technological control. Warning appears genuine. They added a second note, encrypted at the highest level. First species encountered that doesn't need to bare its teeth to remind others it has them. Marine Captain Michael Hayes stared at the tactical display, his face illuminated by the red emergency lighting of the U.S. Horizons Bridge. His hands gripped the command chair as the patrol ship's sensors recorded everything. The Nexer's crystalline dreadnoughts appearing from hyperspace, their weapons already charging, their message broadcast on all frequencies. 3 million colonists. Lieutenant Sarah Rodriguez whispered from her tactical station. "Sir, they're not even giving them a chance to evacuate." Hayes' jaw clenched. Among those 3 million on New Montana was his daughter, Alice, who had just sent him pictures of her first terraformed garden last week. The colony's minimal defensive screens flickered against the first barrage of Nexer weapons. "Get me everything," Hayes ordered, his voice terrifyingly calm. "Every sensor reading, every transmission, every piece of data. Humanity needs to witness this." The Horizon's alien medical officer, Dr. Kittle, monitored the bridge crew's vital signs with growing concern. In his 300 years serving alongside various species, he'd never seen this response to tragedy. The human stress indicators were off the charts, yet their external behavior showed unnatural control. The Nexer's crystalline flagship pulsed with bioluminescent patterns as their supreme evolutionary director began broadcasting. "Let this serve as demonstration. Humanity represents an evolutionary dead end, a species that achieved spaceflight through brute force rather than proper genetic advancement. Their continued existence pollutes the galaxy's genetic pool." Hayes watched the colony's main dome collapse. Agricultural sectors blazed. Residential zones imploded. The sensors caught everything. Heat signatures of civilians running, desperate transmissions cut midward, the final broadcasts from the colony's defenders. "Sir," Rodriguez reported, fingers flying over her console, "I've identified 27 Nexer ships, including 5 of their new genetic perfection class dreadnoughts. They're being thorough. Record their tactics," Hayes ordered. "Their attack patterns, their weak points, everything." Dr. Call's antennae twitched. "Captain, your vital signs. You should be experiencing emotional breakdown. Your child is dead," Hayes finished, still watching the tactical display, along with 3 million others. "And I'm memorizing every detail of how it happened." He turned to Kittle, and the alien physician involuntarily stepped back. Hayes' eyes held something his species' medical training hadn't prepared him for. The massacre lasted 23 minutes. The Nexer were brutally efficient, destroying not just the colony but its ability to be rebuilt. Their final transmission tricked with smug superiority. "The genetic cleansing is complete. Let other primitive species witness the price of evolutionary stagnation." Hayes opened a secure channel to Earth Command. "U.S. Horizon, reporting. New Montana colony has been destroyed. Transmitting full sensor data. Requesting permission to return to Earth." The response came instantly. "Permission granted. Ghost protocol is now in effect. You know what to do." Hayes turned to his crew. "Send the sensor data to Earth. Then begin shutdown procedures." "Shutdown." Kittle's antennae quivered. "Captain, we should pursue. Call for reinforcements. Your species has just suffered an atrocity." "Yes," Hayes agreed, watching his crew methodically power down systems. "We have. And now we're going to respond appropriately." He turned to Rodriguez. "Execute Ghost Protocol." Throughout the ship, systems went dark. Navigation beacons ceased. Transponders died. The Horizon disappeared from all standard detection methods, becoming a ghost in space. Tall watched in confusion as the humans worked with practiced precision. "I don't understand. What is Ghost Protocol?" Hayes finally allowed himself a small, terrible smile. "Something we hoped we'd never need. Humanity is about to remind the galaxy why we included that warning in our introduction." He looked at the tactical display one last time, at the spot where his daughter's garden had been. The Nexar think they've seen humanity's weakness. They're about to learn about humanity's rage. In the following hours, similar reports arrived at Earth Command. Every human ship, every colony, every outpost began implementing Ghost Protocol. The galaxy was about to learn why humans had developed so many different ways to fight, why Earth's history was a chronicle of warfare and peace intertwined, and why humanity's warning should have been taken seriously. The hunt was about to begin. Commander Jessica Barnes stood in Luna Command Center, watching the massive holographic display as human signatures vanished across the galaxy. Each disappearing dot represented a ship, colony, or station implementing Ghost Protocol. The effect was mesmerizing, like watching stars blink out one by one. "Status report," she commanded, her voice echoing through the cavernous chamber. 97% of human assets have gone dark. Lieutenant James Cooper responded, his fingers dancing across the quantum interface. The remaining 3% are executing final trade withdrawals and diplomatic recalls. The archivist High Sage, Keith Ricks, floated in his containment field nearby, his tentacles writhing with increasing agitation as he watched the systematic withdrawal. The ancient being had requested emergency observation rights the moment Ghost Protocol began. "You don't understand what you're witnessing," Kithriks's translator warbled. "My species has seen this pattern before, but never this coordinated." Barnes turned to the ancient alien, her expression neutral. "Oh, do tell. In our archives, spanning millions of years, we've documented 17 species that evolved from apex predators. When threatened, they didn't just fight. They hunted." Thrix's skin pulsed with warning colors. "But your species, you've industrialized the hunting response." On the main display, a human diplomatic shuttle left the Galactic Council mid-session. The Council's sensors recorded the ambassador's last words, "Remember our warning." Then her vital signs simply vanished from scanning range. "Sir," Cooper interrupted, "the Nexar are demanding explanations. Their sensors show our colonies going dark, but when they investigate, they find fully automated facilities. No personnel, no data cores, nothing of strategic value." Barnes nodded. "And the psychological warfare package?" "Deployed. Their communications are being spammed with Earth's historical battle footage. Special focus on guerrilla warfare and resistance movements." Cooper allowed himself a small smile. "Their tactical AIs are struggling to process the concept of armies that don't march in formation." Thrix's tentacles coiled tightly. "Your species fights without honor, without proper military doctrine." "We fight to win," Barnes corrected. "Honor is for sports. War is for survival." She turned to another display showing the Nexar's attempted predictions of human movements. Their logical matrices were failing spectacularly. "Commander," a young analyst called out, "the Nexar just posted a bounty for any information on human tactical capabilities. They're comparing sensor readings to ghost stories." Barnes approached the main tactical display, studying the patterns of vanishing human assets. Each disappearance was carefully timed, creating a ripple effect that was driving the Nexar's prediction software into confusion loops. "They're using their genetic superiority algorithms to predict our movements," she noted, "assuming we'll behave according to evolutionary logic." Her laugh was soft but chilling. "Show them the Sydney Protocol recordings." The command center filled with historical footage. Human special forces training in extreme conditions, survival courses, resistance techniques. The Nexar's information networks were flooded with humanity's capacity for adaptation and unconventional warfare. Thrix's translator struggled to convey his horror. "Your entire species trains for this. Even your civilians know survival tactics." "Computer," Barnes called out, "display Earth's historical data. Specifically, how many martial arts styles humans developed before reaching space." The number appeared, 3,741 documented styles. "That's impossible," Kithrix whispered. "A species needs only 1 or 2 combat forms for efficient military training. We didn't develop them for efficiency, Barnes explained. We developed them because humans have an endless drive to perfect the art of combat, even in peacetime. She turned to the archivist. Know what's scarier? Those are just the documented styles. The final human ships were going dark now. Trade routes fell silent. Colony beacons ceased transmission. The galaxy was experiencing something it had never seen. The coordinated hunting response of an entire technological species. Sir, Cooper reported, Ghost Protocol is complete. All human assets are dark. The Nexer's tactical networks are in chaos trying to track us. They're starting to see human ships where there aren't any. Barnes nodded, satisfaction evident in her posture. Good. Let them chase shadows while we prepare. Send the final coded message to all human forces. The message was simple, encrypted in a way that made the Nexer's computers glitch trying to decode it. Remembered New Montana. The hunt begins. Cathrix's final report to the archive was equally brief. They aren't retreating. They're spreading out for the kill. Lieutenant Colonel Marcus Walsh sat in his stealth command ship, the U.S. Nightshade, watching the Nexer battle fleet with predatory satisfaction. Their crystalline vessels sparkled beautifully in the starlight, their formations perfect, their tactics textbook. They had no idea what was about to hit them. All ships report ready, sir, Lieutenant Emma Carter reported from her tactical station. Psychological warfare package primed. Walsh nodded, his scared face reflecting in the darkened view screen. Let's remind them why humans spent millennia telling ghost stories around campfires. He pressed a button on his command chair. Begin Phase 1. Across the Nexer fleet, their communication systems suddenly activated. At first, it was just human laughter, children's laughter, echoing through every channel. Then it shifted. Battlefield sounds, screams, the chaos of ancient wars. The Nexer's crystal ships pulsed with confusion. Their tactical AI is trying to trace the broadcasts, Carter reported, grinning. They're scanning for ships that don't exist. Walsh leaned forward. Phase 2. Show them why humans are the only species that made horror movies for fun. The Nightshade's quantum computers activated, projecting false sensor readings throughout the Nexer fleet. Phantom ships appeared and disappeared. Impossible energy readings flared and died. The Nexer's formation began to waver. Sir, Communications Officer Jackson called out, intercepting their internal communications. Their crews are. They're starting to see things. Their crystalline structures are resonating with our psychological package. Walsh allowed himself a cold smile. Good. Their genetic engineering made their sensory organs more acute, more susceptible. He turned to his tactical officer. Status of their flagship. Their supreme director is demanding explanations, Carter reported. Their battle computers are crashing trying to form targeting solutions on our ghost signals. Phase 3, Walsh ordered. Let's introduce them to human battle tactics, the ones that made even our own historians shudder. The Nightshade's hidden fleet moved in perfect coordination. Ships appeared where the Nexer's computers swore nothing could hide. Energy weapons fired from impossible angles. Each attack lasted seconds before the ships vanished again, leaving the Nexer firing at shadows. Sir, Jackson's voice carried a note of dark amusement. They're broadcasting on all frequencies, demanding we fight with honor and show ourselves. Send them the historical package, Walsh commanded. Everything from Sun Tzu to modern guerrilla warfare. Let them understand why humans never fought fair when survival was at stake. The Nexer fleet's formation completely broke. Their ships fired randomly at sensor ghosts, their perfect tactics forgotten in the face of an enemy they couldn't predict or understand. Their flagship is transmitting again, Carter announced. They're asking why we're not fighting according to their tactical simulations. Walsh stood, walking to the main viewport. Send them my personal response. Because humans don't believe in fair fights. We believe in winning. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted less than an hour. The mighty Nexer fleet, terror of the galaxy's outer rim, broke and fled in disarray. Their crystal ships, designed to fight in perfect formation, proved catastrophically vulnerable to attacks they couldn't predict or understand. Casualties? Walsh asked as the last Nexar ship jumped to hyperspace. None, sir, Carter reported. They never landed a single hit on our actual ships. Their targeting systems were too compromised by our phantom readings. Walsh nodded, satisfaction evident in his stance. Send word to command. The Nexar's prized 23rd Fleet just learned why humanity spent more time developing stealth technology than shield technology. He paused, watching the debris of the few Nexar ships they'd actually destroyed, and why we're the only species that turned psychological warfare into an art form. As the Nightshade and its fleet prepared to vanish again, Walsh recorded his after-action report. The Nexar's genetic superiority proved their greatest weakness. They expected warfare to be elegant, predictable, fought according to rational rules. They forgot that humans evolved hiding from predators far more dangerous than themselves. We learned to be monsters long before we learned to be civilized. And we never forgot how. In the debris field, a single Nexar escape pod sensors caught the last transmission before the human fleet vanished. Children's laughter, fading into darkness. The hunt continued. Admiral Rachel Turner stood before the holographic display in her flagship's command center, watching as another Nexar stronghold fell. The U.S. Nemesis hung in space like a dark promise, its stealth systems making it nearly invisible against the backdrop of stars. Survivor's pod launched, Admiral Commander David Miller reported. Their neural patterns indicate severe psychological trauma. Just as planned. Turner nodded, her silver hair gleaming under the tactical lights. In her 30 years of service, she'd never imagined implementing the ancient art of psychological warfare on a galactic scale. Let them go. Every terrified survivor becomes a weapon against Nexar morale. The Nexar's most advanced AI core, captured in their last battle, projected its findings. Human combat pattern as DEFY logical analysis. Tactical PREDICTIONS impossible. Recommend immediate surrender. They still don't understand, Turner mused, watching the survivors' pod flee. Show me their latest battle analysis. The holographic display shifted, showing the Nexar's desperate attempts to understand human warfare. Their perfectly ordered minds had mapped every human attack, seeking patterns, trying to apply their superior logic to an enemy that refused to follow rules. Ma'am, Lieutenant James Wilson called from his station. Intercepted Nexar communications indicate they're pulling forces from 17 systems to create a defensive line. They're calling it the Genetic Superiority Wall. Turner's laugh was soft but chilling. Excellent. They're clustering their forces exactly as the art of war advised against 2,000 years ago. She turned to her tactical officer. Status of Operation Nightmare. Phase 3 complete, Miller reported. Their garrison commanders are receiving sensor ghosts of human ships in every system simultaneously. Their patrol fleets are chasing shadows, burning fuel and morale with each wild pursuit. Turner approached the main tactical display, her reflection ghost-like in its surface. Humanity spent millennia perfecting the art of breaking enemy will. Show them why. The Nemesis quantum computers activated, broadcasting directly into the Nexar's crystalline communication network. Not attacks, not threats, but something far worse. Humanity's historical archives of siege warfare, guerrilla tactics, and psychological operations. Their tactical networks are crashing, Wilson reported with grim satisfaction. Their strategic AI is trying to analyze 10,000 years of human warfare simultaneously. It's having something like a nervous breakdown. Send in the Phantom Fleet, Turner ordered. Let's show them why humans wrote horror stories about the dark. Across the sector, stealth ships appeared and vanished, striking with surgical precision before melting away. The Nexar's mighty wall of ships fired frantically at sensor readings that disappeared seconds later, their perfect formation deteriorating into chaos. Admiral, Miller's voice carried a note of dark amusement. The Nexer Supreme Command is demanding to know why we won't fight honorably in open battle. Send them Sun Tzu's quotes about supreme excellence in warfare, Turner commanded. Highlight the part about breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting. The Nexer's response was immediate and frantic. Their commanders couldn't comprehend an enemy that valued victory over combat glory, efficiency over honor. Ma'am, Wilson reported, their flagship is broadcasting on all frequencies. They're asking what we want. Turner's smile was razor thin. Send them the footage from New Montana. Every second. Every scream. Every life they took thinking humanity was weak. She paused, watching another Nexer battle group break formation and flee. Remind them why we warned the galaxy about our rage. The battle continued, but it wasn't really a battle anymore. It was a hunt, methodical and precise. The mighty Nexer fleet, pride of their genetically perfect society, was being dismantled by an enemy they couldn't see, couldn't predict, and couldn't understand. Their tactical doctrine is completely shattered, Miller observed. They're starting to fire at their own sensor ghosts. Turner nodded, satisfaction evident in her posture. Humanity's greatest weapon was never our technology. It was our understanding that war isn't about fighting, it's about winning. She watched another Nexer ship break formation and flee. Send word to command. The Nexer are learning why Earth's history books speak of armies defeated by fear alone. In the distance, the genetic superiority wall continued to crumble, its perfect formations breaking against an enemy that had mastered the art of terror long before reaching the stars. Dr. James Cooper stood before the Galactic Council's emergency session, his presentation ready. Behind him, holographic displays showed Earth's evolutionary history in stark detail. The chamber was packed. The Nexer's latest defeats had everyone's attention. Distinguished representatives, Cooper began, his voice steady. You asked to understand humanity. Let me show you why the Nexer made the worst possible mistake. The first display activated, Earth's prehistoric predators. Saber-toothed tigers, dire wolves, giant eagles, each more terrifying than the last. Humanity didn't evolve as the strongest, fastest, or largest, Cooper explained. We evolve as persistent predators who learn to outthink creatures that could tear us apart. Our first technology wasn't farming, it was weaponry. The Nexer representative's crystalline form pulsed with anger. This proves our point about your primitive origins. Does it? Cooper smiled, triggering the next display. Watch what happened when those primitive humans encountered stronger species. The display showed early humans hunting mammoths, coordinating in silent hand signals, using terrain and tactics that eerily mirrored current space warfare. We didn't just survive, Cooper continued. We became the only species on Earth to develop thousands of different ways to fight. The only species to turn warfare into an art form studied for millennia. The archivist High Sage, Keithrix floated forward, tentacles writhing. The patterns match. Every tactic your ships are using against the Nexer. The psychological warfare, the hit-and-run attacks, the use of terror itself as a weapon. They're all survival strategies from your evolutionary past. Cooper nodded, but here's what the Nexer failed to understand. He activated the final display, human brain scans. See these enhanced regions: empathy, cooperation, abstract thinking. The same evolutionary pressure that made us deadly predators also made us the galaxy's most sophisticated collaborators. The chamber erupted in murmurs as the data scrolled past. Human psychological studies, social structures, the intricate balance of aggression and compassion. Your genetic engineering, Cooper addressed the Nexer directly, focused on perfection. Humanity was forged by imperfection. We had to become smart enough to outsmart predators, social enough to work in groups, and creative enough to survive anything. The display shifted to modern human achievements, medical breakthroughs, peace treaties, artistic masterpieces. We didn't just master warfare, we mastered its opposite. We created therapy, conflict resolution, and meditation. We learned to channel our capacity for violence into protecting peace. A younger Nexar analyst rushed forward, their crystalline form flickering with revelation. The warning. It wasn't a threat. It was a genuine attempt to prevent unnecessary conflict. Exactly, Cooper confirmed. Humanity spent thousands of years learning to control our rage, to channel it constructively. We developed art, music, and literature specifically to process our darker impulses. We're not proud of our capacity for violence. We're proud of our ability to choose peace instead. The display showed the aftermath of the New Montana massacre, then shifted to current tactical reports of human ships protecting evacuating civilian vessels, even Nexar ones. You thought our warning was primitive bravado. Cooper's voice carried across the chamber. It wasn't. It was an advanced species recognizing its own nature and trying to prevent tragedy. We master peace precisely because we understand war so intimately. The council chamber fell silent as the final data scrolled past. Humanity's unique combination of predatory instinct and ethical framework, their ability to shift from peace to war and back again, their endless drive to protect rather than just destroy. The Nexar's mistake, Cooper concluded, wasn't attacking humans. It was assuming that our civilized nature meant we'd forgotten our predatory past. We didn't forget. We transcended it. We learned to use it. And now they're learning why every human child knows the moral of our oldest stories. The most dangerous predator is the one that chooses not to hunt, until it must. As the council session ended, the archivist's final report flashed across secure channels. Humanity represents an evolutionary path we've never seen. Predators who chose to become protectors, warriors who learned to value peace precisely because they understand war so well. The galaxy must adapt to this new paradigm, or risk learning firsthand why they warned us about their rage. In deep space, another Nexar fleet discovered just how well humanity remembered its predatory past. General Amanda Foster walked into the peace negotiations carrying a small, scorched teddy bear from the ruins of New Montana. The Nexar Supreme Director's crystalline form flickered with unease as she placed it quietly on the massive negotiation table aboard the neutral Galactic Council station. "Before we begin," Foster said softly, "I want you to understand something." She touched the burnt toy gently. This belonged to Sarah Hayes, age 6, Captain Hayes' daughter. She was growing flowers in terraformed soil when your ships arrived. The Supreme Director's translator wavered. "We are prepared to offer significant reparations." "No." Foster's voice remained calm, yet the single word silenced the entire chamber. "This isn't about reparations. This is about fundamental change." Behind her, holographic displays showed the current status of the war. Nexar fleets in disarray, their perfect formations shattered. Their mighty empire reduced to defending core worlds against enemies they couldn't even detect. "Your species claimed genetic superiority," Foster continued, her gray eyes fixed on the Supreme Director. "Yet you never understood the most basic principle of evolution. Adaptation requires failure. Humanity evolved through countless failures, endless struggles, and millennia of learning from our mistakes." She activated a tactical display showing the past month's battles. "Look at how your forces still try to fight according to proper military doctrine, even as they're being dismantled by guerrilla tactics that predate human spaceflight." The Nexar's diplomatic team shifted uncomfortably as Foster laid out humanity's terms. They weren't demands for territory, resources, or even punishment. They were something far more fundamental. "First," Foster stated, "the Galactic Council will establish new laws regarding genocide and unprovoked aggression. Not suggestions. Laws with teeth." She smiled thinly. "Humanity will help enforce them." The Supreme Director's crystalline surface pulsed with indignation. "You would make yourselves the galaxy's police." "No," Foster corrected. "We'll be its immune system." "There's a difference." She touched the teddy bear again. "Second, your genetic superiority doctrine ends. Completely. Your empire will undergo supervised reforms to ensure equal rights for all genetic variations of your species. You can't dictate our internal policies, a Nexer diplomat began. We can, Foster interrupted quietly. And we will. Because you prove yourselves too dangerous to be trusted with genetic discrimination. She leaned forward. Or would you prefer we continue demonstrating why humanity's capacity for warfare terrifies even ourselves? The chamber fell silent as Foster presented the final terms. The Nexer would redirect their genetic research toward medical benefits for all species. Their military would be restructured, their expansion halted, their society reformed. This isn't punishment, Foster explained, her voice gentler now. This is prevention. Humanity doesn't want revenge. We want to ensure this never happens again. To anyone. The Supreme Director's translator crackled. And if we refuse? Foster's smile was almost sad. Then we continue proving why humans wrote thousands of books about the art of war, why we turned warfare into a science while simultaneously developing countless ways to avoid it. She gestured to the tactical displays. Your empire is already falling. We're offering you a chance to transform it instead. Hours later, as the Nexer delegation signed the terms, an aide approached Foster. General, some are calling this the most lenient peace terms in galactic history. We could have demanded so much more. Foster picked up the teddy bear, tucking it carefully into her uniform pocket. We're not being lenient, we're being smart. Humanity learned long ago that crushing your enemies completely only guarantees future wars. True victory isn't about destruction, it's about transformation. She looked out at the stars, where human ships still prowled silently through Nexer space. We're not trying to punish them. We're redesigning galactic civilization to be more stable, more just. Her smile carried centuries of human wisdom. After all, the best way to prevent war is to make peace more attractive than conflict. The Nexer Supreme Director watched her leave, finally understanding. Humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their rage, it was their ability to channel that rage into creating lasting change. The teddy bear would later be enshrined in the Galactic Council's Hall of Remembrance, a quiet reminder of why the galaxy learned to take humanity's warnings seriously. Professor Daniel Mitchell adjusted his tie as he prepared to accept the Galactic Peace Prize, the first human to receive the honor. The ceremony hall of the Galactic Council was packed with representatives from every known species, including, notably, a delegation of genetically diverse Nexer. 5 years ago, he began, his voice carrying across the silent chamber. Humanity demonstrated why we included a warning with our introduction to the galactic community. Today, I want to explain why that same capacity for rage makes us uniquely qualified to maintain peace. The holographic displays activated, showing dual images, human children playing alongside alien youngsters in newly established cultural exchange programs, while human warships patrolled distant borders, protecting commercial lanes from pirates and aggression. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our capacity for violence, Mitchell continued. It's our understanding of its cost. We're the species that invented both nuclear weapons and nuclear medicine, developed psychological warfare and psychological healing, created weapons of mass destruction and mass salvation. In the audience, the archivist High Sage Kethrix's tentacles moved in patterns of deep appreciation. The ancient being had spent years studying humanity's dual nature. The reformed Nexer Empire asked me an interesting question last week, Mitchell smiled. They wanted to know why human ships still patrol their borders, even after they've proven their commitment to change. He paused, letting the question hang. The answer is simple. We're not watching them. We're protecting them. The displays showed footage from recent events, human vessels intercepting raiders, providing humanitarian aid, and conducting search and rescue operations. Each incident demonstrated precision, power, and restraint in equal measure. Humanity learned something vital during our evolution, Mitchell explained. The strongest predator isn't the one that kills the most prey. It's the one that maintains the entire ecosystem. His eyes swept the chamber. "We're not the galaxy's police force. We're its immune system. We protect the whole by defending each part." The displays shifted to educational footage now being used in alien military academies. Human martial arts training alongside meditation techniques, combat scenarios paired with diplomatic solutions, strength tempered by wisdom. "Our gift to the galaxy isn't our warfare capability," Mitchell continued. "It's our understanding that true strength lies in choosing not to use that capability. Every human child learns both how to fight and why not to. Every human soldier studies both warfare and peace." In the audience, the Nexer Supreme Director's crystalline form pulsed with colors of acknowledgement. Their society's transformation over the past 5 years had been remarkable, their genetic superiority doctrine replaced with a celebration of diversity. The galaxy asked why humans created thousands of different martial arts. Mitchell smiled. "The answer is simple. We were practicing, not just combat, but discipline, restraint, and the art of channeling power constructively." He lifted a small, restored teddy bear, the same one from the peace negotiations, now cleaned and carefully preserved. "This bear represents both why we fight and why we choose peace. It reminds us that power without compassion is meaningless, that strength without wisdom is dangerous, and that the greatest victory isn't defeating an enemy. It's transforming them into an ally." The chamber erupted in approval as Mitchell concluded. Humanity's warning wasn't a threat. It was an expression of responsibility. We understand our capacity for rage because we work every day to channel it into protecting peace. That's not just our strength, it's our duty. Later, as the ceremony concluded, a young Nexor approached Mitchell. Their crystalline form showed natural variations once considered imperfect in their society. "My generation," they said softly, "is the first to grow up without genetic ranking. We're studying human history to understand both the art of war and the art of peace. Thank you for showing us their strength and diversity." Mitchell smiled, watching human and alien children play in the council's gardens. "The strongest metals," he replied, "are alloys. The strongest societies are the same." Humanity learned that through millennia of conflict and cooperation. We're just sharing the lesson. The archivist's final update to their species classification of humanity read simply, "The species that mastered warfare so thoroughly that they could choose peace instead and prove strong enough to protect that choice for others. Approach with respect, trust with confidence, and never forget their warning, for they haven't forgotten how to keep it."